Namaste. Hi, I'm Sandhya Manoj, a yoga teacher, a dance performer, and a few other things. Today, I want to introduce Surya Namaskaram that can be done in our own pace. Well, this happened because me and my husband, my yoga guru, we have a yoga school called Manasa Yoga, and the school has been established in Malaysia for the past 21 years. We have trained teachers, we have been training students. But yesterday, when I did a Facebook Live interview, and when a few of the online chat groups started asking me questions like, how do you pace Surya Namaskaram? What is the pace of the Surya Namaskaram? It kind of triggered a question within me that from a teacher's perspective, we teach, but how do you find a practice for yourself? Now, pacing Surya Namaskaram is a very good question because each teacher might have a pace, each student might have a pace. And sometimes when you're teaching it in a group class, we pace it with the general norm or the general understanding or the general pace that we are getting as a reciprocation. So if general vibe of the class is to do it quite slowly, then we would pace it accordingly. But that is from the teacher's perspective. Now, how from that you take that pace to your house when you don't have an instruction coming from a teacher or when you don't have a video to look at, how do you pace yourself? Now, this is the most important question that I would like to address today because end of the day, a yoga practice is for yourself and you should be able to come up with that pace for your own practice. When you come to class, our perception is you have come to class and we have that access of 1 hour and we give you maximum teachings. What you take from the teachings and then when you practice, that is when the teaching to understanding, the knowledge, the jnana comes into understanding and becoming part of you. It's like pretty much, let me talk a bit normally because sometimes in yoga videos you find all this consciousness, that layer, this layer, and it becomes too overwhelming because all the vocabulary is out there with magnanimous meanings and we just touch the edge. So today what I want to talk to you is just like a normal lay person, not to say I'm absolutely one, and sometimes when I listen to certain talks or when I read certain books, I completely feel like it just goes over my head, but I just have an overall understanding. So today I want to refer your practice like driving. We all want to learn driving, and the first day when we sit on the driver's seat, there's so many overwhelming, especially if you've tried manual driving. Believe me, it's like too many things under the sun. So you have to turn, you have to press the clutch, then there is the accelerator, then you have to balance before it turns off. There's just too many things. But eventually, when you get the hang of it, and when you have mastered it, in terms of, I'm not saying you become a master to become a teacher, but you have got the mechanics, you've got the organic way of dealing it. You can talk on the phone, you can talk to your friend who is sitting next to you, you can listen to music and have a full-on vibe. It just becomes very, very natural because you don't have to think what to do, unless of course there is something that you have to react to and you react. Now sometimes we forget that our body is also pretty much like that. We need to learn how to work with it and how to vibe with it at every given circumstance. So when you're learning a Surya Namaskaram, it is important to understand what is the pace of your breath. Understand your breathing on that particular day, understanding your body that, okay, if you have had a tough day, like yesterday I had a few performances, so today definitely my body is not what I predicted to be. My body is definitely reacting in different ways and I should be sensitive to it and modulate the pace of my Surya Namaskaram practice if I am practicing Surya Namaskaram and do with that. Now another point I would like to add to the Surya Namaskaram is that it is not a warm-up. No school should say or no art form should say Surya Namaskaram is a warm-up. It is a science by itself and Manasa Yoga absolutely gives the respect and evaluates its teachings in aspects and aspects of it. So today I'm going to give you a brief insight into how Manasa Yoga sees the Surya Namaskaram. We've incorporated a few techniques, not to say it is the only technique to be followed, but it can be incorporated into your practice of Surya Namaskaram. So let's begin the class. So the usual pattern of Manasa is being seated, grounding yourself, any cross-leg position, Sukhasana, which is just the normal cross-leg position, and you close your eyes. Now, before you close your eyes, I would like to just explain why we do this, because in a class or before we start, we always walk into the yoga mat or yoga class with different things over in our heads. We have probably had a conversation with someone, or we must have had a fight in the office, or some sort of a stress is bothering us, or maybe we are not stressed, but we are not in a connected state of mind. So when you come to start a class, or when you come to start a practice, it is important just to internally align yourself. So crossing your legs, being seated, grounding your sitting bones, and closing your eyes. The hands can rest on your thighs. If you are up to it, you can take a chin mudra. If not, just let it, with palms open, be there, resting on your thighs. Bringing your awareness to the right big toe. Awareness to the pelvic area, the front of the pelvis, the back of the pelvis, the midpoint. The midpoint of your navel area, midpoint of your heart area, midpoint of your throat, back wall of your mouth, root of the tongue. Feel the tip of the tongue, feel the tip of the nose, feel the bridge of the nose. Feel the spot between the eyebrows. Feel the center of your crown. Allow your awareness to linger there for a few moments. And then back to the spot between the eyebrows. Bridge of the nose, tip of the nose, tip of the tongue, root of the tongue, back wall of the mouth, throat area, heart area, navel area, base of the pelvis, left big toe. You can do this a couple of rounds so that you're completely internalizing your awareness from the external noises and sounds that can be internally generated as well. Just focusing on these pointers, getting your atta, this moment, your efforts, your tapas. And then let's do a few deep breaths. Exhale out completely. Inhale. 1, 2, 3, 4, 5. Exhale. 1, 2, 3, 4, 5. Inhale. 1, 2, 3, 4, 5. Exhale. 1, 2, 3, 4, 5. Inhale. 1, 2, 3, 4, 5. Hold your breath. Exhale. 1, 2, 3, 4, 5. Resume normal breathing. You can take a namaste in front of your sternum, lowering the chin, lifting the chin, and slowly open your eyes. We usually do this with the philosophy as well added in, but today I'm not adding in a context of teaching because we are teaching Surya Namaskaram. So, Surya Namaskaram, definitely there are a lot of things that you would have read. Please believe in all of it because it is the belief system that leads you to a good practice. But today, my focus would be to help you with each movement of Surya Namaskaram, the 12 movement Surya Namaskaram, and how we can work on each movement if Surya Namaskaram is the only practice that you are doing or indulging in. So let's start the practice. All right, let's come up to a standing position. Now, if you are doing Surya Namaskaram at the start of the day, well, according to me, you can do it at any time. But if you're doing during the start of the day, please do a few preparatory poses before you start your Surya Namaskaram. The first pose we usually go is from the seated position. I'm assuming you have uncrossed your legs. You can go into a Adho Mukha Virasana, which is child's pose. So you can bring your big toes together, spread out the knees and gently going forward. Now, going forward is not a mandatory that you have to collapse forward. You can always keep the energy because this is the beginning of the class and it is not a recovery position yet, but it is an intro position. So keep your arms straight, try to avoid the shrug of the shoulders, pull it back a little bit, get your pelvic action. So here as well, you can do a little bit of preparation before you go into the child pose. If you're not ready yet with your body, you can work on, this is what we call as a technique called knee chest tension or the KCC position of the pelvis, and this is what we called cobra position or the cobra technique. So the pelvic movement and the sternum is the KCC and the pelvic tilt to the KCC chest can be still maintained while doing the cobra pelvis as well. Well, that's a different technique altogether, but in Adho Mukha Virasana, you are using KCC, pulling it back, sternum is forward. You can really keep your arms active, sternum is still extending forward. Now, if your sitting bones are not reaching the heels by any chance, then you can do a little bit of cobra position there so that the grounding happens and then you can rest into the position. Again, remember the actual understanding or meaning of yoga is not to be in a shape but go towards the direction of the asana and the mind should be there in the asana sthiti. Anything other than that is competition and normal stretch. So being in the state of Adho Mukha Virasana or child's pose. You can stay here for easily 30 seconds, 40 seconds, 1 minute is absolutely good. Try not to not have energy in your hands. Keep it straight, keep it energized, because the next position you are going to go into is shifting weight onto toes, bring it to hip width apart position and stay with the knees bent, lift the pelvis. So keep working here because it gives a real good opening to your gluteus maximus. It gives a little bit of shift of weight to your hands if it is early in the morning or in the evening after all your desk job. Get yourself into just extending your spine, getting that base really working from your pelvis, and the chest also can be in an active position. Now when you feel that you have really found that full grounding, your pelvis is in a comfortable position, then you can start exploring the back of your legs, which is your calves, your hamstrings, and be gentle with it. Don't go into target-oriented heels to the floor. You can immediately see how my body reacted. My body went forward and the pelvis also lost its tilt. So be gentle there. Take your time. You can use one heel, then the other heel. You can work on it a few times because sometimes we must have had a run or we must have sat on the desk for a few hours and then the calves and the hamstrings are absolutely tight. You just don't want to strain them further. You work on Adho Mukha Svanasana or downward facing dog. So these are good positions that you can do no matter what and work your strength in it. Now slowly start walking forward, and now we go into what is the famous Uttanasana. Now again, the whole idea of Uttanasana is not somehow touch the floor. So let me come up, upright, and we'll work on Uttanasana with a few props because these are postures that comes with very much relevance in the Surya Namaskaram. So I have a few props here which can be easily substituted with a normal chair, a sofa, or anything that you can find in the house. If not, this thing is there everywhere, which is the wall. And wall is a supremely good prop. And I love the wall because it really gives your push action really well. But I'm going to use a chair for now and show you against the wall as well. So these are the yoga props which I'm not using at the moment. A chair, easily you can find. It doesn't have to be a yoga chair, it can be a normal chair. It should just be a sturdy one, it should be a strong one. Now what I'm going to do is get my hands, it can be even here. The idea is to work from the pelvis, because what happens is most of the time when we say forward bend, we dive into it, because the only idea of forward bend is to touch the floor. I'm talking about an absolute beginner. Of course, yoga practitioners would know better, but start or initiate your movement from the pelvis. You know, in Malaysia especially, because we get Chinese food quite a lot, we have this Chinese soup bowl, a huge bowl where you can eat your Maggies and all that. Consider that bowl as your hip, and if you have to tilt the bowl forward, that is the easiest visualization that you can give. Now, sometimes when you do this, your calves, your hamstrings might be tight and the soup bowl might be only in this angle. Stay there. That is your starting point, and then you transfer a little bit of weight to your hands and then work on the pelvis. Transfer weight to the hands, work on the pelvis, the tilt, and then work. Feel. This is your body. I'm connecting to my body and I'm showing you what is possible with my body. When you are doing, connect with your body. That is the instrument that we have to work with and live with and deal with and appreciate it every single day. And that is the most important thing. What happens in a visual class, in a virtual class, is that even in a normal class, we look at somebody else's body and we start doing with their body. So in Manasa Yoga, especially me and Manoj, we really don't demonstrate so much to our students because we want them to connect with their body. So again, emphasizing on that, connect with your body, try to work from the pelvic bowl, and as it starts to give, believe me, the more time you give, your body starts understanding what you intend with it, and then you start working into your depth. So as the body opens up, as the calves opens up, as the hamstrings opens up, as the pelvis is ready to rotate, then you let the hand go to where its possibilities are. And always remember, if you have migraine or if you have some issues, you can always put something soft here and rest your forehead and make this a very restorative position to start your day, or even to give a full opening to the entire back of your body when your action is all at your source or your hip flexors, because here you definitely need action and what you're experiencing is the reaction. Wonderful. So once you have done these three positions, which is child pose, down dog and Uttanasana for about a minute, you are pretty much ready for Surya Namaskaram. Now again, these time frames are just on general behalf. Some of the bodies might need a little bit more time. And if you're enjoying yourself in downward facing dog or Uttanasana and you want to hold the position for 2 minutes, 3 minutes, fantastic, do it. Now we're going to start with Surya Namaskaram. So, Surya Namaskaram, your first position is grounding your feet. Like with any school system, like Ashtanga Vinyasa system or the Shivananda or whichever school you're following, the first part of any standing position is Tadasana or Samastitihi, but in this particular Surya Namaskaram, we have space between the legs. So as you stand, making sure that both your feet are grounding. You have all the points, that is the base of the big toe, base of the little toe, inner heel, outer heel, similar to the right and left, all of it are grounding. Right? Once you have that, in Manasa, Drishti is very, very important. Drishti is where you look. So if you're going to be doing Surya Namaskaram, but you're going to be looking everywhere, it also means your mind is going everywhere. The whole point of doing yoga practice is to bring that attention to that one action that you're doing, which is Ekagrata. Whether you are able to do it in a movement or whether you are able to do it in stillness. to bring the focus and the concentration of the mind. So the moment you let your eyes really flutter, it means a lot of thoughts are coming in. So in a Hatha Yoga class or in the Manasa style, we are very particular that you limit the movement of your eyeballs and you really work on maintaining a drishti, or where your eyes are going along with the movement, and you stay. So if you're holding a position even for a second, stay with that drishti. So here, first position is you are holding your feet hip width apart. Hip width apart, again, just before I go into that, you find your hip flexor, and that is the distance, big toe, inner line parallel to each other. We are good to go. The first position is Namaste. Now in Manasa, we are very particular. We don't like impingement at the shoulders. So we inhale, take a KCC, rotate the elbows up so that the arms are still in a good rotational mode, and then from the pelvis, you can bend your knees so that you have a good extension. A cobra action is applicable here, and then you arch. Exhaling from the pelvis, rotate, rotate, rotate. Wherever you're reaching, just let that exhalation finish into a full fold. Inhaling, sternum lift. Place the hands by the side of the feet, right leg all the way back, knee down, toe pointing back, sternum up. Make sure the knee is not beyond the line of the big toe. The knee and the heel is in one straight line. Palms are flat, back foot onto toes, knee off. Get a protraction with the shoulders, which means don't collapse. Hold it there as a plank position, holding the breath. Then you go. Knees down, tilt the pelvis, bend the elbows, chest is going forward. Chin down. Lower the pubic area, shoulders are down, don't go lifting, and cobra. Exhaling onto toes, lift, down dog. Inhaling, looking forward, lift the pelvis, lift the leg, foot between the palms. Again, right knee should not go beyond. It should not come into this position. This is the correct position. Left knee down, left toe pointing back, looking forward. Back foot onto toes, knee off. Bring the left leg forward, folding deep. Inhale, coming up, rotate, arch. Exhale, relax. That is one side of your Surya Namaskaram, which is the right side. Left side, Namaste position. Inhale. Exhale. Left leg. Right leg, holding the breath. Inhaling. Exhale. Inhale. Exhale. Now every movement have a breath. It is inhaling, arch back, exhaling, fold, which means throughout the movement you should breathe. So it is not inhale and then you do the movement. The breath is moving, or rather the movement is moving along with the breath. This is very, very, very important. Those practitioners who have tried Ashtanga Vinyasa Yoga, if you have observed or if you have learned from your teachers, it is the Ujjayi Pranayama. The entire sequence can be seen as a Ujjayi Pranayama. Similarly, here also, it is with the breath. The breath is your driver and you are moving with, as your body is moving with that breath. So we will do this one more round. Now I'm going to give you variations for those of you who can't do the full movement. So if, say for example, the floor is too low, or you have back issues, or if you have any sort of ailments and you're not up to going into the full depth of it, the option is a chair. As I said, a steady chair or a sturdy chair will do the trick. And we can do the same 12 movements with the help of a chair. Your idea is to get that arch and fold and the length and the action of your entire body. So if I'm going to do with the chair, in stay position, inhaling, exhaling, inhale, hold the breath, exhale. Just lower a little bit with the elbow, inhale, exhale, inhale, exhale, inhale, exhale. Left side, exhaling, inhale, hold the breath, exhale, inhale, exhale, inhale, exhale, inhale, exhale. Okay, so that is the option you can do if you're doing with a chair. Now the other version you can do is you can use 2 blocks or something similar to 2 blocks, which also helps in a lot of movement. So the position of the block also has to be sturdy. Okay, it cannot be in the upright position. So you have to find the levels with which it is suitable for you. Now, I have to tell you something at this point. I usually use the blocks because if you notice, I've got a long femur bone and my femur bone is actually longer than my upper body. So I have come to a point to understand that I do not have to push myself when it is physically or structurally impossible to get my hand beyond my feet. Acceptance of one's own body is the most important thing, and if we don't work with the body that we have, we're always looking at some other body and we're really rejecting ourselves. What is the point? You are here, you want to make a difference, this is what you've got to do. Love it and use it, and how to make it at its best. It's like a photographer who's taking pictures of me and is videoing me. She's laughing away, and I love the laugh and smile that she's giving. And this is going to go on YouTube. You know, you have the instrument. I could have the very same instrument, but I would not be able to take one picture as good as you. I can keep clicking, probably by stroke of luck, I might get one picture, but it is your expertise in using that instrument. So, body is a beautiful instrument that we can use in the ways we want as long as we're connected to it. So here goes again, understanding your body, understanding your length, understanding your range of movement in every given day. Give yourself that space. We are not the same every day. Every single day we are a new surprise to ourselves. Accept that and let us go into the Surya Namaskaram. Inhaling. Exhale. So this is a good foundation. You can transfer weight, right leg back. Back foot onto toes, knee off. Try not to lift the pelvis. So this is a good flexion that can happen here. Exhale. Inhale. Exhale. Inhale. So when you do this, it becomes easier to bring the legs between that hands, full fold, inhale. Exhale. Inhale. Exhale. Inhale. Hold the breath. Exhale. Inhale. Exhale. Inhale. Exhale. Inhale. Exhale. So that was another round with the blocks. Now that we have seen how to do Surya Namaskaram with props and without props, I will now do a segment with which you can work on each movement, which is, we have 12 movements and certain movements are definitely a repeat, but how you can work with each movement, how to improve those movements, and also probably add a little bit of variation if Surya Namaskaram is the only practice or the only dedicated time that you have for a yoga practice or physical practice or mat practice, then maybe you can add some variations to it. So I'm not going to do it as a sequence as per se, but you can opt these options to add in to your practice. So I'm going to start first with the arch back position. So I'm going to use the wall as the prop, okay, and I will give you a front view and a side view. But for the beginning part of it, as we mentioned earlier, the feet have to be hip width apart. Hip width apart, again, it has to be in line with your psoas. Now, one important pointer that you need to work on when you're arching back is that making sure you have the tilt in this fashion, which is the cobra technique in Manasa language, the cobra pelvis. Now, a lot of youngsters, again, I don't use these young and old or age pornography because I don't believe in it, but most of the young kids or children have a tendency to keep it in KCC position. And from here, when you arch, when you do that, there's a lot of compression happening on this. So we really do not want that compression to happen. And like I mentioned before, the arm going into that rotation so that we avoid the impingement here. And this KCC rotation also avoids this, because most of the time there is a high tendency in Surya Namaskaram practice to just throw. And when you see the momentum is going into a full shrug position, and if you're not careful, your neck tends to do this as well in the effort of arching a little bit more. So how to work on your arch by itself? So initially, if you're just working on your certain movements, make it sure that it becomes a habit. So this has to be a developed habit, and it cannot go from here to there. It cannot go from here to this. It is, you rotate, you make sure the elbow rotates forward, up and back, so that you get the entire rotation in your shoulder socket where you take it out. So when you take this back, are you seeing the shoulders? The scapula comes towards each other. Then the elbows go forward so that it opens up, but it does not get my trapezes up. So here and in this way, and then you arch. So if that is a practice you want to do by itself, then you can use a wall. So you are standing, again hip width apart, making sure you're, and always remember, locking knees is not a good idea because you want a little bit of movement forward. There's a little bit of transfer of weight that happens. So you want to keep your knees a little bit in a, not a gripped position. You don't want to hold it straight. You want to keep it a little bit loosened up, and then give more room to the pelvis, arch. Touch, come up. So if you're working on a little bit of drop backs in this fashion, you can use a little bit of a nudge, a little bit of a push from the wall. So we can do it about 3 times. So as you're getting comfortable, you can walk further away from the wall. You can even go deeper. And you might get some sounds from your throat, but avoiding that, you just work on your drop backs. Now, when you're back into the mat, into the practice, after the arch back comes the Uttanasana. So we already worked on Uttanasana variations. One is on the chair, it can be with a bolster, it can be with a wall. So you can always use different props. You can use the blocks here, you can work on it. You can shift weight, you can bend your knees, work on this, eventually getting the rotation of the pelvis. That's the most important thing you want to work, rather than diving into the whole thing with your fingertips. It is more of rotation from the pelvis, letting the calves open, letting the hamstrings open, rotation sternum, instead of curving it in, pull it out, getting your arms, instead of shrugging it too much, let that lines work directly. Now a few techniques, you can even do this on a chair when you're getting it opened up. A few other methodologies of working into your Uttanasana can be, you go against the wall, about an inch or 2 inches off the wall, and then you get your sitting bones against the wall, and then you can work your distance. You can keep your hands a little bit in front and then start working towards it. If you have, like I have 2 hooks here, so I can use that hook to hold. You can take your time, and then you can even walk your feet back, transferring some weight to your hands, and then really working on that flexion from the psoas and the pelvis. So this is one way of working it. You can walk forward and come up. The other way is the opposite. You can go towards the wall, bend forward, get your back towards the wall. So you are aiming to get that pelvis towards the wall. It's a direction anyway, and you can work on getting the depth in an Uttanasana. So you can walk forward a little bit, you can work on with your heels going up, a little bit of pulsation there, and make sure you walk out and coming up. So these are a few techniques you can use against the wall. Take your time. The whole idea should not be target oriented. Connect with your body, connect with your breath, connect how you are able to sustain. I always say this in my classes of yoga or dance. You should be at a position where you can still modulate. You can still function. If you're going to go into a position where you are stuck and you can barely breathe, then there is no room for improvement. So you should be at a position where it is not your end of the stretch. It is at the slight optimum, slightly before, where you can still make adjustments. All right? So now we will go into the next position. So here from Uttanasana, you're taking your right leg back, right knee down, right toe pointing back. Now this is a beautiful position, especially because you have flexion on this side and we have extension on the other psoas. Now here, if you're really working with Surya Namaskaram, and if you have some time, you can work on this a little bit deeper by taking your left hand inside. So when you're finishing the other side, you can do it on the other side as well. You can take slowly the elbows down, work on one side flexion, one side extension, and really work on the depth of the variation. This is a wonderful position in so many levels. You can work on deep extension on the right side, deep flexion on the left side. Again, always remember, the idea is not to collapse. Okay? To collapse means you can't work. So at this position, I can still feel the elongation, and it is always best to work at that range. Then you take the hand out, back foot onto toes, knee off. Now this is a strong position, plank, where you really hold and take the leg back. Now make sure the pelvis is not lifted or dropped. You have a protracted shoulders and you're holding plank. Plank is a really good position for your core, and it is good to sustain this position as long as you can. Then you can go into knee, chest and chin. Now here, you can also work your triceps and your upper body strength, as we call it, the ladies push-up. But well, it's not so easy to do it either. You can use some prop, which is a block first, an upright block. So here make sure the elbow should not go outward, it is going backwards, and the chest is moving forward. So your chest is going towards the block and up. Try not to do this or this, because the work is being done by the hip. Our idea is to isolate the muscle and feel the triceps, and your upper body is in control for that, and your pelvis is not moving at all. So from here, you are just taking the chest down and up. Chest down and up. So since this height is quite easy, you can change the level of the block either this way or flat. So I'm going to do here. Without shrugging the shoulders. So this is a variation you can do. You can do up to 10 to 15 times, or until you feel your triceps are really working, or like what we like to hear, burning. So now into knee, chest and chin position. So this is one good position. If you want to work on the lower back strength, you can do a few variations like the leg raises here. It works very carefully at your lower back. Then shifting into cobra. So cobra also you can very well work with a prop. So I have a bolster here. You can use a pillow or something strong. You can even use 2 blocks. And you take your pelvis to the bolster and you can stay here. Here also a few pulsations would work on the muscles to develop. And then you go into downward facing dog. So even in downward facing dog, you can do variations like right leg up. You can also do a few pulsations here. The other side. And then you can take the right leg forward. So even in this position, when you come back, you can do a variation like a twist, or another variation you can do is Ardha Anjaneyasana, which gives a full extension to the back of your leg, of right leg, making sure the pelvis is above the knee. And then you can come forward, Uttanasana, and finish the round. So even in this, you can add balancing postures if you want to. When you're coming back to Uttanasana, you can stay here. You can do this variations. You can add a lot of postures in between, which is what we refer to as our vinyasa classes. Definitely I'll make a video on that in the next episode. before winding it down, always remember to close your practice with the Shavasana, seated, enjoy yourself, celebrate yourself, but before that, do subscribe, do give me your thumbs up, your likes, your comments and your requests, because it's your encouragement that would motivate us to put out more. So with that, I leave you to your great self.